Alright, let's get started with part 2 of this presentation. So first, I want to run you through some of the quick basics of Key Club dues so that you know how to answer questions when you get them as treasurer and you know what's going on in Key Club International and why we pay dues in the first place. So the way Key Club dues work is that of the amount that each member pays, a certain portion of it goes to Key Club International and another portion of it we keep as the Pacific Northwest District Key Club. $6.50 of each member's dues go to the international office, and $5.50 of those dues we keep as the Pacific Northwest District to make a grand total of $12 for each member. Now, one question you will get a lot as treasurer is, why do I have to pay dues to do service? And that's a fantastic question. With any large organization, it's inherent that we have administrative costs, and that's what dues goes to, as well as literature mailing that I will go over in the next slide or a few slides down the road. And the most important thing about dues is that they're used to help sponsor and support clubs and district programs and projects. For example, without dues payments, we wouldn't be able to fundraise for the Eliminate project, we wouldn't be able to do Trick or Treat for UNICEF, and also we wouldn't be able to give clubs grants to do service projects through the Youth Opportunities Fund, or YOF. All of these three things and all the other service projects and opportunities that the Key Club International provides you with are funded by dues. And so through dues, we're able to give you this framework to serve on a global international level. In order to be a part of Key Club, every member must pay their dues. This is very, very important. If a Key Club member has not paid their dues, then of course they can attend your meetings and listen, but they cannot participate in service projects. And this has to do with insurance and liability concerns, because when a Key Club member pays their dues, they're also then being covered by the Kiwanis liability insurance policy. And so if something happens to them, or if something happens at an event, then the Kiwanis liability insurance policy will take care of it. But if they're not covered, if they haven't paid Key Club dues, then they're not covered by that policy and they're not a part of Key Club. So this is very important to remember. Every member must pay their dues. So there are a couple deadlines for dues payments. The early bird payment, as we call it, is November 1st. So if you get in your dues by November 1st, you get a myriad of rewards. You get better decon seats, you'll get an award for early bird payments, and you'll also get a patch to put on your banner that says we paid early bird payments. But November 1st is not an absolute deadline. The actual deadline for dues is December 1st. Now, this is when every club must pay their dues. So I would recommend starting early, and when you're talking to your clubs, tell all your members that it's due, that they have to get their dues in by something like October 15th, so you can try and make that November 1st early bird deadline. And if you can't make that deadline, no worries, you still have another month to get it in. But my advice would be to kind of gear your club to thinking that the deadline is November 1st, and then do your best to get your dues in by that time, and then things will just run smoothly from there. So I want to go over with you how the dues of our district and international are spent, because it's really important that you all know this. And one thing that I really wanted to emphasize this year during my term is financial transparency. So one thing I've been doing is I've been getting financial and budget presentations at every board meeting. And so if you ever have any questions, you can ask your lieutenant governor and they'll tell you what I talked about at my budget presentation. Or just send me an email and I'd be happy to call you or email you and give you a quick overview of how we're spending our money. But this is a very helpful pie chart to give you a general idea of how we spend our money. As you can see, about 32% of our dues money goes towards the magazine. Now, this is because we place a very high value on communication and distribution of information, especially because we are a very large organization. And as you can see, 21% goes to literature and general mailing. So we're really just mailing you a lot of information. So one thing I want you to make sure is that when you pay your dues, if you don't receive any materials by January, make sure you contact your lieutenant governor, and then they will find out why you haven't received your stuff. Because if you're paying your dues, you should receive all the benefits that come with paying dues. And usually the international office is very good at getting these materials out to the clubbers, but sometimes they mess up and some clubs don't receive their materials. In addition, a lot of the money goes towards membership forms, cards, stationery, and then a lot of copying and stuff they have to do. Those are just administrative costs in order to run board meetings successfully at the district level, at the international level. There are a lot of administrative costs that go into running a large organization such as ours, so that we can provide you with service opportunities that you might not get elsewhere or be able to get without our organization's help. In addition, a good portion of our money goes to convention planning, promotion, and site selection. So some of our money goes into district convention. And one thing that's really good about the Pacific Northwest District Convention is we're always able to generate a little bit of profit. And this is good because then we don't lose money on decon. And because if we were to lose money on decon, then district convention would not be sustainable. And so it's really good that the money we put into decon we earn back into our accounts. In addition, some of our money goes to alumni development, creating resources for Circle K International and Kiwanis family to better connect the K family. And then a bit of it goes to the Key Club weekend and the major emphasis projects at the end. So, the projects that we're emphasizing through the major emphasis, children, their future, our focus. So like I said, you get a few items from the international office when you pay your dues. This includes membership cards and pins for every registered member in the membership update center. You also receive brochures that are very good advertising materials for you to go out into your schools and recruit more members. In addition, you get officer and advisor training resources, and these are very useful if you are a new club that's coming up or you haven't had very good officer training in the past from your lieutenant governors. You'll receive a lot of very good materials for this purpose. And if you ever need more materials, you can always go to your lieutenant governor or to any of the executive officers, including myself. In addition, as you saw, we spend a lot of money on mailing literature and the magazine. So the Key Club magazine is a publication created by International, where they put in information concerning everything that's happening around International, Key Club International, service projects, service opportunities, things that other clubs are doing. I would recommend that you take full advantage of this good that you are mailed, because we're spending so much money to mail this to you, you might as well take advantage of the information inside. I believe each club gets 2 copies of the magazine, and so distribute one to your members, and at a meeting have them pass it around so that they can see how big Key Club International is and everything that we're doing. One thing we would like to emphasize as an organization is that we are vast, we are huge, and usually when members realize how big Key Club is, that's when they get excited. And so it's really good for you to pass around the magazine and make sure that all your members know what's going on, as well as for you yourself to know what's going on in International. Like I talked about before, one of the very, very important aspects of paying dues is receiving liability insurance coverage. If you don't pay dues, then you as a member, well, you're not a member first of all, but you're not covered by the liability insurance policy. And so that means that you can't participate at events, because if something were to happen, if you were to cause damages to the facility, then Kiwanis International would not cover it. Currently, Kiwanis International has a $1 million liability insurance policy to cover things that may happen at service projects, but you are not covered if you do not pay your dues. So make sure that every member who goes to a service project has paid their dues. And then, of course, you get support from Key Club International and the Pacific Northwest District. Now, this is invaluable because anytime you are having trouble with a service project, working with like an advisor, working with officers, whatever the problem may be, you have the resources of the district. You can go to your lieutenant governor and get help from them. And if your lieutenant governor doesn't know, then you can come to any of the executive board members on the Pacific Northwest District Board. That would be the governor, Lisa, Secretary Akun, myself, the treasurer, and Jenny, the editor. We're all here to help you. And so when you pay your dues, you get that support. We have experience, we have a lot of experience in Key Club solving problems, especially on the district board and in our own home clubs, and we're here to help you, to give you this knowledge. So take advantage of it. If you ever have a problem, just feel free to contact us. In addition, you can contact anyone on the international board in Key Club International to get support there too. And so when you pay your dues, you get this kind of support. We give you this backbone so that you're not alone when you're trying to figure out problems in order to serve your community, because we're here to help you. So let's quickly go over how, some of the good methods for collecting and paying dues. So you have to collect $12, as we talked about earlier, from every member, at least 15 to be a member, to be a Key Club, I apologize. Then you take the member information, you go into the membership update center like I showed you earlier, you enter all that information into the MIUC, and at the end you generate the invoice and you pay by credit card, or if you have to, pay by mail. If you have to pay by mail, make sure that you copy the invoice, scan it, and send it to me so that I can track your invoice and payment if things happen. Sometimes when you mail things, payments get lost with Key Club International, which is why I suggest you pay by credit card. But if you have to pay by mail, make sure that you send me a copy of your invoice so I know that you paid. Now, one really unique strategy that I would like to stress, or I'd like to emphasize and suggest to you, is to generate 2 invoices. So a lot of larger clubs in our district have trouble collecting all of their payments and membership information from their members by the deadlines of November 1st, December 1st, etc. And that makes sense. Some of our clubs in the district are huge. They have 200 plus members. And so what I would recommend is that what you do is you first send a primary invoice by December 1st, the absolute deadline, that only consists of 15 members. You send in their information and you send in their payment. That's not too hard to get payments from 15 members. And then if you pay those 15 members, you are in good standing, you're an active Key Club. And then what you do is after you send that in, you focus on the rest of your members, getting their information in, registering them, and then you send a second payment. A lot of our membership growth that has been happening in the past few months, we jumped from about 12,600 to 13,041 members currently, I believe, has been happening from clubs who are doing this, who paid an initial invoice in order to make the dues deadline and are now sending in later payments for the bulk of their members. And I would highly recommend this because it enables you to easily become in good standing and get your dues payment in, but then it also allows you to process members on your own time as time permits and then send those in at a later date. If you have any questions about this, please contact me because I highly recommend that you consider this as treasure in order to make the deadlines, and I would love to work with you to explain it further. Okay, so now we have to go over one of my least favorite topics because obviously I don't want this to happen in any club, and that is suspended and inactive clubs. So the way you get into this kind of dangerous territory, if you will, is you don't meet the deadline and you don't pay your dues. So what happens is, say you don't pay your dues by December 1st. Key Club International will give you kind of a goodwill. On goodwill, they'll give you 2 months to get that in. But if you don't turn in your dues by 60 days after December 1st, so February 1st, then you become suspended. And what suspended means is it's kind of like a warning. So you're fine. You're not in good standing with Key Club, obviously. You don't have insurance coverage, nothing like that. But we haven't done anything to your charter. Like you're fine. It's just a warning. So the way to reverse this, go back from suspended into active status, is to pay your dues and send them in before international convention. Now, we have a problem if you don't send in your dues before international convention, because after international convention, your club will most likely be made inactive by the international board. And what happens when you become inactive is it becomes much, much more difficult to bring back your club. In addition to paying the dues that you would pay to get out of suspended status, you have to fill out the reactivation form, refill out half of the charter document, and then in addition pay a $100 charter fee. Not charter fee, I apologize, reactivation fee. So you have to pay your dues in addition to the $100 reactivation fee and the paperwork. Now, if your club is inactive, this isn't that hard, and I can guide you through the process easily. But it would be better if we could avoid this altogether by getting in our dues before international convention. If your club remains inactive for more than 1 year, then it is quite possible that your charter will be suspended. At every board meeting, we go over club charters to remove of inactive clubs that haven't paid in a number of years. And so in order to avoid all of this, it's imperative that you as a treasurer work to get in your dues before international convention. And if for some reason your club currently is suspended or inactive, most likely, then just contact me and contact your lieutenant governor, and we'll be more than happy to work with you to bring that club back, because we want nothing more than to bring the club back. And it's really not that difficult once we sit down and work together to hash out the details and get everything done. So I want to run you through a very brief financial summary so that you kind of know how much money we have in the district and what we're kind of doing with it. So as of right now, at the time of making of this video, we have 328 clubs in the district, and our member count is about 13,029. It's jumped up a little bit in the past week to about 13,040, but that doesn't alter the total amount very much. And so we receive $5.50 from each member, and so the total amount sitting in our Pacific Northwest District account currently is sitting at $70,944.50. This is the money that we use to reimburse lieutenant governors for travel, to help mail out copies of the espresso, every administrative cost that comes with running the Pacific Northwest District Key Club. We use money from this account. So a few things that I want to end on, and I might have to skip into another part of this video because there's a 15-minute time limit on this recording software. I encourage all of you to apply for the Distinguished Treasurer Award at District Convention. District convention is a great opportunity to be recognized for all the hard work you put in, and if you're able to fulfill all your duties, then as soon as the packet comes out, just fill out the application and submit your application, and I get to go through those and pick out the treasurer that I think has done the most work for their club. And we'll be right back.